This is probably maybe one of the most surprising things I've heard on MSNBC in a while. Listen to this.
I hope we all remember about the outcome of the election. With all due respect to Anand, the American public is not waiting for someone to lead them out of fascism. That is not what the American public sent us a message about. They're waiting for people to listen to them and actually engage with them in their communities about what they want from the government. And so
she's kind of correct, actually. People are not super concerned about words like fascism. People, as the saying goes, you can't eat democracy. Democracy does not inherently help your material needs. You can have a democratic society that is not providing for people's material needs. So when politicians listen to their people, they'll find that, hey, they want their material needs met. They're not super concerned about fascism, even if they don't think positively of fascism. So she's on point there. Let's see how Jimmy Dore twists this.
Part of the
So how we've been screaming that Trump is a fascist for the last 8 years. It didn't work. So the American people actually want their government to do things that make their life materially better? You mean they want to not be in medical debt? They want their streets to be safe? They want infrastructure? They want clean water and clean food?
Trump doesn't support any of that stuff. In fact, Trump is undermining pretty much all of that stuff through dismantling the administrative state, dismantling administrative agencies. Without good government, we can't have any of those things. I'm sorry, Jimmy Dore. So you need to stop backing Trump if you want those things.
You mean stuff like that? You mean they want a living wage? You mean they want to end the wars and invest that money back in their own country? You mean things like that? You mean they want
They don't
housing?
give a rat's ass about Ukraine?
You mean they want the housing they can afford? You mean people want things that actually they can't do by themselves? They want government to help them with. You mean things like that? They just don't want them to scream fascist so they can get an adrenaline rush by hating on someone? You know, like...
Now, Jimmy Dore is saying this because he doesn't want you to call Trump a fascist. He doesn't think Trump is a fascist at all. I'm not super obsessed with the idea of calling Trump a fascist. I think he's far right. I think he's authoritarian. A lot of people would say that's fascist, but I'm not super obsessed with throwing this sensationalist label on it. But I don't begrudge anyone who calls Trump a fascist at this point. I mean, he's off the wall. And Jimmy Dore is mad that people are insulting Trump because Jimmy Dore really does like Trump. Look at his recent segments. There's a lot of them praising Trump. Like, dude, this is not like his first term. This is a whole new version of Trump, Trump Unchained. And if you're praising him, you are far right.
George Orwell talked about the 5 minutes of hate. You mean that's not what they want? Oh, no kidding. And it took you to lose to Trump twice for you to figure that out finally? Finally. This is kind of amazing. Let's watch it again.
I hope we all remember about the outcome of the election. With all due respect to Anand, the American public is not waiting for someone to lead them out of fascism. That is not what the American public sent us a message about. They're waiting for people to listen to them and actually engage with them in their communities about what they want from the government. And so part of the challenge here is continuing to have the conversation in a way that's academic and ivory tower and not what actually people are dealing with. And that, to me, is a big part of the outcome and why Trump connected in a weird way and why we need to change what we do and not talk about it as leading people out of fascism. That's not what the public is looking for.
Wait, why did you not say this before? How did you figure this out?
Well, we had to lose to Trump twice. Now it's safe to say because we lost to him again, and we can never lose to him a third time. So now it's afraid to kind of tell the truth. Hey, you know what? That we should have been talking about things that actually matter to people. We should have been talking about how people
That's weird.
that half the country can't afford a $500 emergency. Maybe
You can walk and chew gum at the same time. So you can address people's material needs while also pointing out that Trump is authoritarian, far right, that he's promising to use the military against the enemy from within, that he said he wants to be a dictator on day one, that he refers to his political opponents as vermin, that he's calling for mass deportations, including deporting people who are not violent criminals. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with calling him a fascist. There's nothing wrong with saying that. You most importantly need to speak to people's material needs and speak about the issues that they're concerned about, because calling Trump a fascist does nothing to address those material needs. But there's nothing wrong. You can walk and chew gum at the same time, dude. You can point out, some of the ivory tower stuff about Trump and institutional norms and democracy, and that's perfectly fine. A lot of the points that they made were correct. Now, do they resonate that much with the American people? Arguably not. Arguably, the 2024 election sort of disproves that.
should have talked about how 80% of the country works paycheck to paycheck, how 50% of the country makes $30,000 or less. Maybe stuff like that. Maybe we should have talked about that.
Trump won't fix any of those things at all. He'll make them worse.
I don't know. Maybe we should have talked about how they've opened the borders, and so now they're suppressing wages with unlimited illegal immigration.
Total lie. The borders were not opened. Joe Biden was pretty tough on the border, actually, just like the guy he worked for, Barack Obama, the president. The deporter-in-chief Obama was known as. Biden was actually pretty aggressive on the border.
And that's exactly what it's there for. Maybe we should talk about that. But no, we should defend that and call the guy who wants to fight it a fascist. I can't believe that. And I love to go. And that's why Trump connected in a weird way. In a weird way? You know, it would have been weird if Kamala Harris would have connected with someone because she didn't have a message and she didn't talk about, all she talked about was Trump bad and I'm joy.
She spoke in complete sentences, at least. She knew how to smile and laugh. Trump doesn't laugh very much. Tim Walz pointed that out. Trump doesn't really know how to act like a normal human. It's kind of strange. And now I'm not saying Kamala Harris ran the perfect campaign because she did not. There were some problems there. She was a bit repetitive. She gave wishy-washy answers at times. So I sort of see why he might say she would have a hard time connecting with people. But to say that, oh, yeah, no, she doesn't know how to connect and Trump does, total partisan brainworms.
And abortion. So if you're for abortion, that was it. A weird, that would have been weird. Trump actually talking about things that matter to people, ending the wars, investing.
Trump's not against abortion. He said the states can do it. So it's not even really a choice between the two things, is it?
Right.
I think that was what Ruth Ginsburg wanted, to give it to the states, too.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. People don't talk about that. Ruth Bader.
Okay, we're going to end here on that note, but that is a total lie. Ruth Bader Ginsburg did not support overturning Roe versus Wade and handing it back to the states. Ruth Bader Ginsburg disagreed with the premise of Roe versus Wade, that it's all about privacy. She supported the idea of abortion being a constitutional right based on the idea of gender equality. That was something she was really big into. She was a feminist. And so she would revisit Roe versus Wade on the grounds that they need to do away with this whole right to privacy thing and instead talk about gender equality. See, I went to law school, so I know these things. I understand these things, and I'm also not a propagandist for Donald Trump. Jimmy Dore has basically become that, even if he won't admit it. So, no, Jimmy. And also, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg did support overturning Roe versus Wade, that doesn't automatically make Trump's position correct or popular at all. It's just a left-leaning person who happens to agree with him on a certain issue. And yeah, she wasn't around at the time Roe versus Wade was decided. She wasn't on the Supreme Court. So yeah, she wasn't there till the 1990s. And yeah, she was a solidly left-wing justice and generally supportive of abortion in her Supreme Court rulings that addressed abortion during her tenure. So Jimmy Dore is once again wrong. He is lying to you. Consider why he doesn't call himself a Trump supporter, but he releases so many pro-Trump videos. Kind of takes a hit to his credibility when he does that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Morris the Merrier, and I look forward to speaking to you in my next video.